It's October 25. Good afternoon. Welcome to Tomorrow's People on Radio Glendon. I hope everybody's having a good evening. And if you're having a good evening, it's going to get a lot better when this program has started. And it has started, so things are getting a lot better already. We just played a mixture of African and Bollywood music. African and Bollywood. And our guest this evening reflects that.
Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome, Zahair.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Can you translate welcome to the Tomorrow's People show in Swahili and Gujarati?
Okay. So in Swahili, welcome to Tomorrow's People. Karibuni, watu wa kesho. Want to say that?
Yes.
Karibuni, watu wa kesho.
Watu wa kesho.
And in Gujarati, I'll just say it in English. Welcome. Ajna kalnamaras. Kalnamaras or kal logo. That's more in Hindi. Yes. People in Hindi is logo. Those people. So kal logo, kalnamaras in those two languages of India.
Yes.
They are pretty similar in many ways. These are Sanskrit languages.
Sanskrit. What do you mean by Sanskrit?
Sanskrit. Yes. The Latin or the main language, the ancient language of northern India, from which Punjabi, Gujarati, Bengali, Hindi derives their words.
Yes.
So the languages of northern India, compared to the languages of southern India, which are very different, which are more Dravidian, Tamil, Telugu, things of that nature. Very different languages. So India is very diverse too, just like the African continent, very diverse.
Okay.
Swahili being the main language of East Africa, given my background, I was born there. My forefathers came from India many moons ago, over 100 years ago, to East Africa. So I consider myself to be a multiple identity person.
Okay. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So you were born in Kenya.
In Kenya.
In Kenya.
Raised in Kenya.
And raised in Kenya.
You're right. So that tells you how old I am. I leave it to the listeners to calculate that. But at York, I'm a very mature student.
Oh, so you're a York student.
I'm a York mature student now.
You're a mature student.
Yeah.
So you have been to York.
I started my first degree 42 years ago.
42 years
1975. Ago. I was a young man of 19. I came to York to study economics. And ended up studying history and economics. Mm-hmm. And then my family said, what are you going to do now? Go study accounting. So in the process, I became an accountant. I studied accounting. I'm a CPA, Certified Professional Accountant, the old CGA, Certified General Accountant. I worked for many years. I finally retired about 2 years ago. And I decided to come back to school to do what I should have done in the first place.
Okay.
Which is study history.
All right.
So I've been here for about 2 years now and having a time of my life.
Yes. So what's the difference between then York University and now York University? And also welcome to Glendon College, the Glendon campus.
Thank you very much. York University then was, of course, much smaller. It was predominantly, if you want to put it in terms of its racial demography, predominantly white. Minority students were very few. To my knowledge or recollection, I don't think there was more than 500 to 1,000. It's about 10% of the student body would have been non-white. Today, it's totally different. It's about more than 60, as I observe walking around, it's about 60%, almost 70%, I think, non-white. So there's a big demographic change. And a change in the ethnicities of all the students, change in every aspect.
Yes.
And it reflects the change in Canada, I think, over the last 50 years. So that's reflected, I think, in York today.
Yes. Weren't you at the bilingual campus of York? Why the Kiel campus?
Why?
Because
I see.
Glendon campus is bilingual and multilingual.
Je parle français un peu. But the main program I want to do is at the Kiel campus.
Yes.
And of course, Kiel campus is closer for me.
Yes.
I live in Mississauga, the main reason.
Yes.
And I started off at Kiel campus, so there's that sentimentality of.
Yes. Well, it's always good to have somebody who is bilingual or multilingual at Glendon College, because we do encourage that.
Thank you.
Multilingualism.
Thank you again. Asante sana.
Asante sana.
Thank you in Swahili.
Sorry.
Or if you want it in Hindi, shukriya.
Shukriya.
Shukriya, shukr,
Shukriya.
shukr, yeah.
That has a nice ring to it.
It has
Shukriya.
a nice ring to it.
I would be saying thank you every day.
If you have friends who happen to speak Hindi, just go and say shukriya.
Shukriya.
And they'll wonder what the hell,
How did I learn?
how did you learn this? And you can tell them. A very mature student came to my radio program.
Yes. We know that colonization existed in, well, it existed in, or still exists to some degree in Canada and many parts of the world, including India
Right,
and Kenya.
right.
It may sound a bit complicated to compare, contrast and compare. So I'm going to ask you to compare and contrast India and Kenya first. Then from that comparison, from the similarities that you have found, I want you to compare and contrast it with Canada.
In terms of the colonial...
Colonization.
Colonization.
What does it look like in...
No, by me, my personal view?
Your personal view.
These countries of Africa and the Indian subcontinent were heavily impacted by the British colonial period in terms of the psychological impact on the peoples of those lands. That is still present in their mindset today, from my perspective.
Yeah.
Right? If you visit those countries, you will still see people want to be Britishized. They want to be westernized.
Yes.
Right? They still listen to Western music, right? English music, British music. English is the spoken language, it's the language of preference. It supersedes the languages of the local in those countries. So people still have to somehow maintain or keep that colonial connection alive for their own survival.
Yes.
Because without English or without a good English education, you're dead meat.
Oh, it's that strong.
It's that strong. The social world of those countries runs on English. You can't get away from it. Because now after colonialism, we're in the era of globalization.
Okay.
Today, right? All these countries are trading with the world, are doing business with the world. So there has to be some common language of communication, right? It's, for example, it's when the Chinese come to these countries to trade. What's the language that's spoken?
They have to learn English.
They have to learn English. So English is just too deeply ingrained in those societies. And so the English-centric viewpoint still persists. And it's another form of colonization that's come through now in globalization.
Okay.
That's the way I kind of see that. And if you replicate that to Canada, okay, now Canada is in the North American world.
Yes.
Right? It's next to the largest power in the world, the U.S. And the main language of North America, you cannot get away from it, is English.
Yes.
Any immigrant coming to Canada from a non-English speaking country, what do they have to do to survive?
Learn English.
They have to learn English. So the advantage for people from
Or French, but English is quite strong here.
English is stronger. Yeah. In Canada, of course, French is an asset. I always encourage people to be as bilingual as they can.
Yes.
But English is still predominant in many ways.
Yes.
Right? And people who migrate here from the former British colonies, say, of the Caribbean, from Africa, or from the Indian subcontinent, the natural advantage here is that they can sort of converse in English, and they can sort of get that to assimilate faster in many ways compared to a non-English speaking immigrant.
Yeah.
So that's what I've noticed over the years.
Okay. Thank you. Um, I asked you this heavy question because this is really a heavy question that's quite complex because I want to know about the freedom fighters of Kenya
Hmm.
and India
Right.
because I've been hearing that word
Right.
a lot.
Right.
So
Okay.
how did that came
Okay.
by
So
that word?
uh, the independence movement in India.
Hmm.
Now this is in the 1930s and 40s and before that was led by Mahatma Gandhi, Gujarati,
Yes.
same ethnic background as me. So
Yes.
he and I could have spoken the same language. We could have thought about the world in similar ways,
Yes.
right? And Gandhi was very heavily impacted by his stay in South Africa in the early 1900s when he became a lawyer in India, a lawyer in Great Britain.
Yes.
He went there as a student and then returned back to, instead of going back to India, he went back to South Africa. And he had to live under apartheid, like, the system of racial segregation.
Yes.
And that heavily impacted him into his views on British colonialism. So his tenure in South Africa made him so anti-British that when he went back to India, he said, I'm going to throw these people out. I'm going to sort of fight for independence.
It's gonna fight for
Right,
independence.
right? So
Yes.
to the 20s and 30s and 40s, he kind of led the charge against British colonialism. I mean, there's a whole history behind that. So that was the connection between Gandhi and Gujarat. Now, if you turn to Kenya,
Hmm.
the fighting movement there was led by the first president, Jomo Kenyatta.
Kenyatta.
Right? His tribe, the Kikuyus, led that Mau Mau freedom fight movement in Kenya in the 50s,
Yes.
which shook the British. In terms, there was a guerrilla war going on,
Yes.
and it shook the British hold on power in that colony to such an extent that struggle lasted about 5 years, just hanging on to that colony. It was a very rich colony,
Yes.
right? It had a large settler population. There was almost 50,000 British settlers there, right? And they owned all the land and all the resources in terms of all the good land and all those. So, and the African wanted their land back, right?
Yes.
Because that's what had happened under colonialism. They were pushed away from their land and put into reserves and then made to work for the European.
Yeah.
So it was a very, what would you say, system of enslavement in many ways.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And they rose up. And the
And-
Mau Mau insurgency was all about that. So
Okay.
that was the freedom fight there.
Okay. Growing up in Kenya, having Indian, Gujarati ancestry, what was it like? Did you, at any time, did you feel like an outcast or did they welcome you and you were a part of the
Yeah.
Kenyan family?
Yeah. So now this was a very difficult situation. So what happened under colonial rule?
Mhm.
Kenya itself had its own form of apartheid.
Yes.
It kept the races separate under the colonial system. So the whites had their own institutions and privileges. The Indian people had their own institutions and privileges, and the African people had their own institution and privileges. Very few privileges. After independence, everything kind of was integrated,
Okay.
right? So my generation was sort of the first generation to now live in an integrated, multiracial society, multicultural society.
Does that look different than Canada in terms of multiracial, multicultural, just gelling together as
Yeah.
one nation?
No, there's similarities and there's differences.
What are the similarities
So
and differences?
similarities, like, everyone, they were trying to put everyone on the same page,
Mhm.
sort of. So the education system, the social system, that would all be sort of at one level,
Mhm.
right? But the economic system was again very still running along colonial lines.
Colonial
So
lines.
you had the whites still holding on to their privileges.
Mhm.
The Indians were in between somewhere, and holding to their privileges.
Yes.
So okay, so that after independence did cause a lot of turbulence, right? And the African government started, naturally, they were now the people in power.
Yes.
So they wanted to advance the cause of their people, right? They wanted to bring them up, right? And in that process, naturally, the people who held the privileges began to get affected.
Yes.
Right? So many a time, if you saw yourself being affected
too
too much, what could you do? You could stay or you could leave.
Leave.
So
Yes,
then, many people chose the option to leave. And plus then the political circumstances were becoming very, very difficult.
Yes.
Things are changing too fast, right? And people were worried about the future. So if that's the case, what do you do? So that's how my family decided to leave.
Oh, decided to leave.
Yeah, yeah. So this was part of the post-independence turbulence going on,
Yes.
political disturbances that had some not so positive impact on people.
Yeah.
And so we left in the early 70s.
All right. Is there any games that you used to play as a child growing up?
Yes. I used to play all the British sports.
Tell me about that. Tell me, is there any
so-
games that you think is unique, whether to India or Kenya?
Yeah. Now,
Tell us about it and how
I
do
think
we
for
play?
all people from the British colonies,
Yes,
they'll always remember cricket.
cricket. Yes,
Right.
cricket.
So the
is
West
something-
Indies,
Yeah.
they're the one time used to have the best team.
Yes.
India used to have its own team. Pakistan's another one. Sri Lanka. Their whole subcontinent
Yes.
is cricket mad, right? And in East Africa, cricket was very popular. So as a young kid growing up,
Cricket. Love
was
the
always,
cricket.
cricket was always there,
Yeah.
right? Soccer was there.
Yes.
In my high school, I had rugby. So
rugby in Kenya.
Rugby in Kenya, in the high school I went to. Field hockey.
Hockey.
Field hockey.
Oh, field hockey.
Field
yes.
hockey.
Oh, the one on the
With
the
stick,
grass.
on the grass,
Yeah.
on the marrow, right? So those are my sports growing up as a young kid, as a teenager. Coming to North America, everything changed because the sports of the British colonies
Yes.
were not part of North America. So here you had ice hockey, you had American football, Canadian football,
Yeah.
and I used to compare that to rugby, and then baseball, right? So over the years, the British sports that I played have kind of faded away from memory.
Yeah. Just a question. What do you think is the secret of Kenyans why they run so well
why they run
long
so
distance?
fast? Yeah, okay.
Long distance.
Now I think that's their physical strength plus the high altitudes where they live.
Oh,
to
after the country.
right?
Okay.
Okay. Now the Kenyan highlands, where many of these athletes grow up or practice, are about 6,000 to 7,000 feet above sea level. So it's a very high altitude,
Very high.
right? So if you have to run to school every day, right, as a young kid, you develop that capacity to be
Yes.
able to run for long distances.
Yes.
So it's the same way as the Jamaicans are good at short distances.
Always running.
Always running.
Fast.
Always running fast.
Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt.
Running to school. Quick,
Right.
quick. Don't want to be late.
Don't be late. Right. So same analogy. The Jamaican sprint is a sprinter.
Yes.
The Kenyan is a long distance
Long
marathon
distance
runner.
runners.
I think this Kenyan won the marathon on the weekend.
Yeah.
Somebody from Kenya, I think.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, I
but
just saw the picture.
Oh.
The picture in the Star. I think it was a runner from Kenya. I saw him draping himself in the flag.
Yeah.
So that's one of the achievements of Kenyans,
Achievements. The
especially after independence.
sports, track and field.
Track and field, long distance running, and even middle distance.
Yes.
So again, it's the physical capacity and the physical environments these people live in that gives them that strength, stamina to be able to manage, the strength to run.
To run. I have a bulk of questions here.
Sure.
So some series of questions. So one, did your family teach you your Gujarati culture and your Kenyan culture? If they taught it to you, do you have kids and do you teach what you have learned then if you teach it to them now?
Okay.
And why it's important?
Yeah. So now, Growing up in Kenya,
Mm.
in a predominantly Gujarati family, you're
Yes.
Gujarati,
Yes.
right? And your culture will be reflected in your language in many ways. So your food, your dressing, everything related to everyday existence would be more or less that Gujarati oriented. World, you of course interacted with African people and you interacted with European people,
Yes.
right? So with the African, it would be in their language, so Swahili,
Swahili.
right? And of course, with the British, it would be in English. So you were kind of immersed in these three linguistic cultures in many ways growing up.
Yes.
So it was sort of, you learn by osmosis.
Okay.
Living in that society, it comes naturally.
Do you think being multilingual makes you learn things faster?
Yes,
Because studies show that.
yeah,
So I just
yeah.
wanted
you
to
can
know
you can
if it helps you to analyze and
analyze, because your mind is
adopt things
constantly
quicker.
your mind is constantly moving between languages,
Yes.
depending on how things are being thrown at you, how things are being spoken to you,
Yes.
right? So yes, they definitely it can make a difference.
Yeah.
Now, in North America and Canada, the thing is, because English is so predominant, right? That you interact with everyone else besides your family or community
In English.
in English. And even with your community now, it's all English. I've noticed that, like, now after 35, 40 years, when a community has lived in Canada for so long, English becomes their lingua franca, right? So everything then is English-centered.
Yes.
So then, for your kids,
Yes.
because they go to English-speaking schools, right? They live in an English-speaking milieu.
Yeah.
The chances are that they will become monolingual. Like my kids are monolingual. They speak just English.
They only speak English.
They only speak English. They can understand my mother tongue.
Oh, they can understand.
They can understand.
Just like some Jamaican kids here who have Jamaican parents, they
Right.
can understand the patois,
Yeah,
but they can't speak
they
it.
can't speak it. So I think this is common with all non-English speaking cultures.
They understand, but they can't
They
speak it.
can't speak. And there's the reason, because you have to look at it from the kid's perspective, that
Yes.
he is going to school daily.
So
He's interacting with other kids who are speaking English, unless they happen to be some kids of his own background there,
yes.
right? But even then, they'll speak English,
Yes.
right? So then, osmosis of Canada, that will make you predominantly English speaking.
So, because I realize it here too, like a lot, even Arabic, persons will understand Arabic
Yeah.
around me, but they can't speak
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that's very common. Like Arabic, all Gujarati, Punjabi, any language from any part of the world will eventually sort of recede in the background, fade away,
Yes.
right? Unless you happen to just live in isolation.
Or probably what we need is more social groups that can interact in terms of maybe a Swahili group or a Patois group.
You could.
If it
Yeah.
probably would help bridge
Yeah.
the gaps.
Yeah. But it'll just be a small group.
Small group.
But to interact with the outside world, the group will
Yes.
still have to speak English.
Yes, it's that powerful.
It's that powerful. Or is that dominant,
Yeah, dominant.
right? So in Canada, that's, I think, the issue. If you look at it from a practical perspective.
Yes.
So it's a challenge.
Yeah. So speaking of languages, what does Zahair mean?
Oh, so Zahair is Arabic Persian.
Mhm.
It means what is apparent,
Yes.
what is visible. So if you look at me, you can tell, okay, this guy's a good guy, if you want to put it that way. But that's what it means. It's what's Zahair. And the opposite is another Arabic word called batin.
Bantin.
Batin.
Batin.
What is hidden? What is hidden?
Yes.
What nobody can know. It's a secret. So you have to find ways to find the batin, if you look at it from a spiritual point of view.
Yes.
But so Zahair is what's apparent or what's visible.
Yes. For me, I don't know what my name Elton Campbell means, so I kind of push this name Kwabena, which means born on Tuesday
Born on
in
Tuesday.
Ghana.
Okay, that's good. But Elton, like I told you, they named you after Elton John.
But
But it's a good name.
very European, so I'm like,
Yeah, it's a Euro
I need
Eurocentric
something
name.
that reflects my ancestry, so I chose Kwabena, which
Kwabena,
is
okay.
from Ghana, which
From-
means born on Tuesday.
Yeah, but I guess you can choose any name from the African continent.
Yes, that's true.
Like, any name.
So give me a Swahili name.
Swahili name for you. Uh, Maisha.
Maisha?
Maisha Mzuri.
Maisha Mazuri.
Yeah. Good life.
Good life.
Good life.
That's a good one. Maisha.
Maisha Mzuri.
Mazuri.
Yeah. Good life.
Good life.
Or Mutu Mzuri.
Mutu Mazuri.
Good man.
Good man.
Good man.
I realize Mazuri is associated with many words in Swahili. What does it mean?
Yeah, so Mzuri basically means good.
Good.
Right? So everything, when you want to look at things, Maisha Mzuri,
Oh my-
good life.
Just like saying good morning, Mazuri is
Yeah.
attached to that.
Attached to that. Like, Afia Mzuri, good health.
Afia Mazuri.
Good health. Okay. Maisha Mzuri, good life. Pesa Mzuri, money is good.
Yes.
So everything's associated with Mzuri. Chakula Mzuri, good food.
Good food.
Good food.
Chakula Mazuri.
Chakula Mzuri.
Speaking about food, what are the type of food that you like? Indian food and Kenyan
I'm
food?
open to all kinds of food. Having lived in Canada now
Mhm.
for so long.
So you don't miss any of those food
No,
from Kenya.
all those foods are available here. But the choice you have in Canada over food
Mhm.
is, I think, one of the best you'll find anywhere in the world.
Yes.
Because you can literally go to a restaurant,
Mhm.
you name a country, and it's probably here. So if you like Japanese food, you can go to a Japanese restaurant.
Yes.
If you like Korean food, you can go to Korean. If you like Indian food, you can
Because I like Indian food.
Yeah. Now, even Indian food, the variety of Indian food, it reflects the cultures of India.
Because I have a friend from India who is a student here,
Right.
and they saw me at the Kiel campus. The Caribbean, there
Of
are
course.
Indian influences
Yeah,
there
right.
too. It's really good.
The Caribbean had a large population
Yes,
of
Indian population.
migrants, right?
Yes,
Trinidad, Guyana,
Trinidad,
I think,
Guyana,
some
Jamaica has.
too, right? So those people brought the food.
Yes,
So I always say when people
food and music.
food and music, those seem to continue in one way or the other. They might lose the language.
Yes,
They might lose their culture in some ways. Values will change.
yes,
But food and music are
food and music,
are sort of constant,
constant.
that seem to withstand the challenges of time.
Yes.
So I guess food is a human necessity.
And I have an interesting question now. If you were to combine Indian food with Kenyan food to create something on the menu, what would you suggest?
Oh.
Something unique from both cultures.
From both cultures. Okay. So this is what happens in Kenya. Okay.
Mhm.
The African,
Mhm.
he loves Indian curries,
Yes,
samosas. You know samosas?
yes,
The Indian fried potatoes,
yes.
pakora. He loves all those sorts of foods, Indian foods. And on the side, he'll always have his maize meal,
Mhm.
what they call ugali.
Gali.
Yeah. Similar to, I think, the mealie in the Caribbean, made from cassava.
Yes, cassava.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I love that. I'm getting hungry talking
Pounded
about
cassava.
it.
Yeah. So that will always be on the side.
Yes,
And there'll always be some kind of wheat-based roti or something like
yeah,
that.
roti. I love roti.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, the food there is a fusion.
Yes, it's
Okay.
already a fusion.
Yeah, it's a fusion of the three cultures
Wow.
that kind of coexisted in that society. Like, so you'll have the upper elite still wanting British type food,
Mhm.
but with a Kenyan Indian flavor.
How do I say food in in both India.
So in Swahili,
Jugati,
in Swahili it is chakula.
Chikula,
Chakula. In Gujarati or Hindi, it would be cow.
Cow,
Kawano.
Kawano.
Yeah. So like a food.
Yes. Is there a difference between Gujarati and Hindi, or they're quite similar?
Some words are parallel, similar,
Are there slight differences?
and some differences.
Oh, similarly to the Caribbean, how we
Yeah.
speak,
Yeah.
slight difference. Okay.
Like I said, the languages have their roots in Sanskrit,
Oh, okay.
and then there are various versions,
Various versions.
and different words,
Hmm.
dialectics.
Yes.
So it depends on what part of India you're from.
How do I say music in both? Because we're gonna play Maria Makeba,
Right. So in Swahili,
Malaika.
no,
Yes.
Swahili has borrowed music from English, so it's muziki.
Musiki.
Muziki. I think it's a word of convenience.
Okay.
And in Gujarati, again, it's become a word of convenience. We just say music.
Mhm. So we're gonna play some
Yeah,
musiki.
so muziki.
Musiki.
Miriam Makeba,
Mari Makeba.
Malaika, the
Malaika.
famous Malaika. You know what it means?
My sweet angel.
My sweet angel, or my angel.
My angel.
So it's a beautiful love song.
Beautiful. I usually listen to this song
Right.
on Sundays when I used to live in Jamaica.
Uh,
So we're
so
gonna
it's one of those global songs.
yes,
a global reach.
it's very popular. People love it.
And she herself was a very staunch freedom fighter.
Yes, that's why I know it, because I that's how I asked you about
Right.
colonialism.
Yeah.
I read about these things a lot, and her music is always associated
So
in that.
with anti-colonial themes.
Yes,
And the struggle she had with the
Yes.
South African regime.
Yes.
It's a story in itself.
yes. So we're gonna play it, and when we come back, we'll talk more
Sure.
before we wrap up.
Sure.
Welcome back. How do I say welcome back?
Karibu tena.
Kaributana.
Karibu tena.
How do I say it in
In Gujarati?
Gujarati?
Oh boy.
Gujarati.
Awo pacho.
Our pacho.
Awo pacho. So it's a comeback.
Yes. Malaika.
Malaika.
I love that
Very,
song.
Very popular song
Yes.
in East Africa.
Are a lot of girls there named Malaika?
Many.
Many?
Many.
Because I know several persons when I used to live in Jamaica who had that name,
Well,
Malaika.
Yeah. It's a very sweet name for a girl.
Very, very nice.
So, and girls are all angels anyway.
Yes. Can you tell us a bit more about Maria Makeba?
Miriam Makeba.
I'm getting tongue tied.
I'll tell you the little that I
Yes.
know. She's of course South African.
Yes.
She was, I think, from the Zulu group.
Mm-hmm.
She had her own challenges with apartheid. She was one of the first women
Yes.
to stand up against the South African regime. Now that was a very, very cruel system.
Yes.
I've been to South Africa, and I've seen the after effects of apartheid. If you visit South Africa,
Yes.
they're still there. As an outsider, you will notice right away
Yes.
that that system has left its psychological damage
It's damage.
on that society.
A lot of
Just the way
damage.
colonial has damaged
Yes.
the new countries
Yes.
of the Commonwealth. Apartheid had its own internal damage on South Africa. So you can still see that. So she was one of the first persons to start fighting that system.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, she was exiled.
Oh.
She was forced to leave South
So
Africa.
she went to Kenya,
No, she came to East Africa. She
East
came
Africa.
to Tanzania.
Tanzania.
The government there helped her.
Mhm.
Julius Nyerere was the president. He gave her a Tanzanian passport because they took away South Africa took away her passport,
Mhm.
so she couldn't travel anywhere. That was their reason.
Yes.
But he gave her a Tanzanian passport, so she traveled around the world
Yes.
to fight the cause of South Africans.
Yes.
And
Yes. which is really good.
Yeah, and she was she was in exile all these years.
Yes.
She came to the States. She additional push in terms of her musical
Belafonte,
career.
which is probably one of the first artists in the world to sell millions.
Right.
Yes.
Again,
a lot of persons don't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, Jamaican by birth, develop your career.
Yes.
And
Which is really good.
Which is really good.
Really good.
Right. And then, of course, she, in her own way, had her own mind about her position in the world.
Mm-hmm.
She married a guy called Stokely Carmichael one time, and they went to live in Africa, in Guinea, and they lived there for a few years, but it was very difficult.
Yes.
And then she eventually ended up in Europe. I think she divorced him. And then from there, she sort of still kept up her fight against apartheid.
Freedom fight.
Freedom fight.
Yes.
And this went on for many, many years, right up until Mandela was released in 1990. And then when he sort of came to power, he invited her back to South Africa. So she had a long exile of about 30, 40 years.
Yes.
Right? And then she came back and then resettled in that country again. But by that time had passed her. But she was still very, very involved in politics and also in music. And she spent the rest of her life there.
That's a really inspirational story.
Yeah. So she was a real strong lady for her time.
Yeah.
And
you mentioned Tanzania. What's the difference between Tanzanian Swahili and Kenyan Swahili? And I understand that Uganda also speaks Swahili.
Yeah, they all speak Swahili.
Is there variations?
I think there's different ways of speaking, different forms. Tanzanians always consider their Swahili to be the best. They speak the Queen Swahili, so to speak. Look at it that way.
Yes.
They consider Kenyan Swahili and Ugandan Swahili to be a bit unpolished.
Yes.
Or not as the competition, I think, in those countries. And after independence, Tanzania made Swahili its official language. Right? So it's the lingua franca. Right? It makes Swahili a national language. They try to be more bilingual.
Do you think what Tanzania did is a good thing or a bad thing?
For the country itself?
Yes.
Socially, to provide cohesion between its various groups, it did the best thing. Yes. So it kind of unified the people. One language, Swahili.
Yes.
Right? So it created that unity. The drawback was because Swahili was sort of shifted away from the education system. It put the Tanzanian economy on a disadvantage compared to Kenya and Uganda. Because English was still the language of commerce there.
Yes.
So when multinational companies wanted to go to East Africa or whatever, they naturally wanted English speakers, so they would end up there. And Tanzania got left out.
Oh, so it had advantages and disadvantages.
So it's pros and cons.
Yes. Yeah. All right. I need to ask you something. Truth or myth?
By all means.
I know that Kenya is on the equator.
Right.
The country Kenya is on the equator.
Right.
So part of the country is in the northern hemisphere.
Right.
And part is in the southern hemisphere.
Equator passes through.
Yes.
It divides the country in half.
Through. Yes.
Almost.
I hear this all the time, that if you're born in the southern hemisphere of Kenya, the southern side, your hair grows in a different direction. And on the northern side, their hair grows in a different direction. Is this true? There's truth to this, or is it false?
Now, if you're hearing it...
I tried researching it, but
No. Okay. This I've seen. I've been to that part of the world.
Yes.
To that part of Kenya. And if you ever go there, you will see the people who try and chase the tourists. They show them how the water rotates.
Yes.
One way north of the equator. Possibly.
So I'm asking, does the hair grows like that?
So now, if the analogy is, I've seen that for water.
Yes.
Right. So would it be true for humans and the way the hair grows? Possibly, yes. You still have to sort of prove it.
Oh, so we need to prove that.
You need to prove it by actually, I guess, looking at people's hair. I think a barber would be the best person.
A barber in Kenya.
A hairdresser, yeah.
A barber or hairdresser in Kenya could answer.
A hairdresser. Or the women of Kenya. You know, ladies always like to do the hair.
Yes.
They will be the best people to answer this question.
I need to find a Kenyan woman and ask her.
Ask her.
But I've spoken to Tanzanians.
Right.
But they're not on the equator.
No, they're south of the equator.
Yes.
So you could ask them which way the hair grows. Ask them in Swahili. Let me think. I think hair was nywele.
Nywele.
Yeah. Nywele in a panda, I think, to grow.
Nywele in a panda.
How? Namna gani? Namna
gani.
I'll write it for you.
That would be good. Yeah. Would be a good question to ask.
A good question.
And I want to ask it in Swahili so I can be like, I know something in Swahili.
Exactly.
What's the difference between Jambo and Habari?
Okay. Jambo is a usual greeting. Hello.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Habari is more, how are you?
Okay.
How are you? Like, so people say Jambo, hello,
mm-hmm.
and then say Habari gani. So how are you?
Okay. And another one. These questions are based on words that I've picked up hearing other people saying.
Right.
Mambo VP, is that saying I'm good?
Mambo VP, as a slang, it can be saying I'm good.
Is it informal or formal?
It can be both. But Mambo VP really is the Canadian equivalent. What's up? Right? So Mambo VP. So it's something similar. What's up? It can be construed that way.
Okay. What's the motto of India and what's the motto of Kenya?
Oh boy. I know Tanzania was, I think, Uhuru na Kazi.
What does that mean?
Freedom and work. Or Uhuru na Umoja. Freedom and unity.
Freedom.
And unity.
Freedom and unity.
Yeah. Kenya, I'm just trying to remember. The national anthem.
In the meantime, think about the one from India.
Oh boy, that's too far for me.
Okay, the motto that I'm seeing for Kenya is Harambe.
Right. Yeah. So let's pull together.
How
could I forget that?
What does that mean? What does that signify for you here in terms of pulling together, in terms of reflecting the country?
Okay.
And how it has progressed so far.
So, I remember this. So when we migrated from Kenya to Canada, those of us, many times you meet with your community group, and we would always say to do well in Canada,
yes,
you have to be in the Harambe mode. You have to pull together. It meant you have to work hard. You have to persevere. So all these things that are essential for one's success and progress in Canada, you have to do Harambe.
Okay. And for India, I believe it's...
truth. Satya? Is it say Satya?
Satya Meva. Jayate.
Yeah, Satya Mava Jayate. Truth will prevail.
Truth will prevail.
Yeah, so again, context of Canada, it's the truth that counts.
Yes.
By and large.
So pulling together the truth.
And the truth.
That counts.
Right. Now in a society like Canada, no matter what people will say, eventually the truth prevails.
Yes.
Because the justice system is still
developing, but it's at advance.
It's developed, but it's a strong system. There's a word for it. It still has that trust.
Oh, there is a lot of trust in the justice
in the
system
justice
here.
system, right? So the truth will, no matter what,
The truth will
prevail.
prevail.
Right. So eventually, you always see this happening. A politician tries to cover up. Eventually,
The truth will prevail.
truth will prevail.
Yes, that's
So that I've noticed here in North America over the last 45 years. The truth always prevails. The problem is the countries you come from. Sometimes that is not
there.
possible,
Yeah.
or the justice system is not as developed.
Yes.
And there's a problem, I think, everywhere in these former British colonies, which is corruption,
Corruption.
which really is the worst enemy of those places, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Corruption is the worst
it's
enemy.
the worst enemy. Like, it's a self-inflicted wound
Yes.
on those societies. That's why I always tell people, look, you left those, why did you or your parents leave?
Corruption.
That's one reason, many a time, among many others.
Yeah. Among many.
Among many others. But that was a major driving force,
Yes.
right? So sometimes people don't like to hear.
Yeah, I know a lot of people don't like to discuss these things, but
Yeah.
I believe it's very important,
It's very important that
for
you
us
know.
to have these
Yeah.
type of discussions.
And the other example, I said, look, I've been here about 45 years. I've not
Yes.
paid one bribe anywhere for anything,
Yes.
right? Look, you want your driver's license? Go pass the test. You want your documents?
Go past the test.
Go pass the test.
Yes.
Anything that is, or nobody can ask you for anything. Similarly, in the world of work,
Yes.
you're qualified, you're able,
You're able to
you should be able to sort of
secure.
be the best candidate,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I need a commission.
Nobody can. I don't remember what they call that word. There's a word for it, where
Kickback or a commission, or
yeah.
every one of these countries have their own code word.
Oh, bribe.
Bribe.
We have a word for it in Jamaica. I just can't remember it.
In Kenya,
There's a word for
in
it.
Kenya, it's kitu kidogo.
Ketu de godo.
Kitu
Kitu
kidogo. Small.
kidogo.
Yeah, so a small gift,
Yes.
right? And then once that starts in a society,
It continues.
it's like a cancer.
Yeah.
It just eats away at everything. It keeps on getting bigger and bigger.
Corrupt
and bigger.
everything,
Corrupt
basically.
everything, like, you know. So
Yeah.
I think that is a very important difference.
Yes. We're almost at the end of our program. Is there something that you would like to leave the listeners with? Any final comments?
Any final thoughts?
Any final thoughts?
I would say, if you're a student at York,
Yes.
work hard,
Mm-hmm.
do well, and you'll be successful. Just study hard.
Study hard.
Study hard, you know, and be good at what you would like to do. Follow your
Yes.
passion.
Follow your passion.
Follow your passion. Follow your dreams.
Why is it important to follow your passion and follow your dreams?
I think if you follow your passion, I think, as I
Yes.
told you, then you will. You firstly, you've studied what you've liked,
Yes.
right? And then the economic benefit of that, say a job,
Yes.
would, I think, follow. Because you're passionate about something, you will do your own thing to find your way into whatever it is. And by and large, you'll succeed,
Mhm.
right? Rather than doing what happened to me, being forced into something that you chose, finding a job, which I did.
Mhm.
But then, did I really enjoy it? Yes and no.
Okay.
It's a mixed bag, a mixed feeling. So always follow what you like.
Always.
Yeah. And try and also, then sometimes you have to accept the reality that if you follow something which is very obscure, it may not have that economic benefit,
Mhm.
and you'll have to adjust.
Okay.
But by and large, you will find something that can bring you that ultimate benefit economically. Because obviously after school you have to do something to
Yes.
be able to
Yes, that
survive.
is true. So, thank you, Zahair,
You're welcome, sir.
for coming in
Thank
today.
you, sir. My pleasure.
And this has been Tomorrow People. which is Watu Wakeshu in Swahili, and Kalnamaras, or
Gujarati, or Kalogu in Hindi. Something to that effect. I'm not the best Hindi speaker, but
okay. Asante Sada.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And goodbye.
Goodbye.
Kwaheri.
Yeah.
And in Gujarati, Avjo.
So,
au revoir. En français.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Elton. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
It was my pleasure to be here.
Yes.
We'll do one another time.
Yes. Definitely we'll have a part 2.
Definitely.
This has been the Tomorrow People Show. I was your host, Elton Campbell. See you next week, Wednesday, 4 to 5 p.m. on Radio Glendon.